Yes, yes. Amazing. Do it. Say it again. It's just great. Yeah, definitely tens. My gosh. Leave her, Terry. What? I don't understand this. I don't get him. Boo! Boo! What's going on, you guys? James here with another real review, and today we're getting into my spoiler-free thoughts on the final season of The Dragon Prince, Season 7, which is titled Dark. Thanks so much to Netflix for giving me the chance to watch all 9 episodes for review. Each of them are your traditional 25 to 28 minutes in length. You know what I mean, guys. It's not new for us, but this is such a bittersweet send-off. Oh man, there's so many good to great things to talk about, and I also want to dive into some things that were a bit of a mixed bag for me. But before we get into any of that, if it is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I love talking about movies, TV, and yeah, The Dragon Prince. So if you do too, hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, tap on that bell, leave a like and a comment, and let me know down below your thoughts on Season 7 when you see it, and are you more excited after hearing my review or not? Alrighty, y'all, so let's get started. Season 7 releases on Netflix Thursday, December 19th, most likely at 3:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you need a time zone conversion, let me know in the comments down below. But for your reference, of course I'm reacting to all the episodes, so when that first episode drops, my reaction goes live, and everything after that, so stay tuned all weekend long for my reactions. But the series, as you know, is created by Ehasz and Justin Richmond, friends of the channel at this point, and it stars an all-star cast led by Jack Sena, who voices Callum, Paula Burrows, who voices Rayla, Erik Todd Dellums, who voices Aaravos and gets so much more screen time. We'll talk about that too. Racquel Belmonte as Claudia, Sasha Rojen as King Ezran, A+ performance there, and Inocalla as Soren. Guys, you already know what's going to happen. Well, I should say you already know what the premise is for Season 7. I don't got to tell y'all. But in case you need a little refresher, here's where we're at. With Aaravos now released from his prison, the great Star Touch elf intends to bring destruction to both of the human kingdoms and Zadia. The only hope lies within a group of heroes, led by Callum and Rayla, to restore order to this world and possibly defeat Aaravos once and for all. But can a Star Touch elf really be defeated? Oh, okay, I'll stop. I'm gonna stop. This is a spoiler-free review. I'm not hinting at anything, I promise. So, today, we're gonna get started, of course, on an optimistic note. Y'all know me. I love The Dragon Prince. I've loved almost everything that this show has had to offer. So let's begin with the positives, and for me, I think this is a fitting end to a journey that I've absolutely loved. The biggest fear for any final season, of course, of a show is the lingering question of, will they stick the landing? And thankfully, I believe they did for the most part. Of course, there's little things here and there that we'll talk about, not in, of course, detail, but we'll get into some of that later in this review, but I think that the final 4-episode stretch is proof positive that they knew exactly where they were going, and I'm glad they stuck the landing. I mean, this 4-episode stretch at the end of this season is the strongest stretch of episodes that this show has ever delivered. The action is at its best here. I loved the thrills, the twists, and the jaw-dropping moments. I was almost flipped out, and I almost fell on the floor. Seriously, I was laughing, I was almost crying, and I was in disbelief. So there's a lot of emotions that this season really allowed me to feel, and while the final episode did pull out some unexpected reveals, it didn't really, how do I say this? It's not going to have a total ending, if that makes sense. They're leaving the door open for some stuff. So for some of you wondering, oh my gosh, will there be a cliffhanger ending? Some storylines are resolved, some are not. So there's definitely the door left open for a possible Arc 3. But I still think it's a very solid curtain call for The Dragon Prince. I know not everything is going to wrap up nicely, but it actually makes sense if they do get seasons 8 through 10, because there's a lot of story still to come. So of course I would love a third arc, especially because there's a moment in season 7 that has 2 ways it could go. And let's just say it chose the way of trying to continue the season. That's all I'll say. We'll talk about more of this in my spoiler review, but yeah, I still think it was a very solid final season. Now, when it comes to the voice acting, I do think it was very well rounded this season as well. In past seasons, of course, I found myself able to pick out one actor that I felt absolutely stole the show. So if you remember, I said in season 5, it was Claudia, season 6, it was Viren, and in season 7, it's funny because I gotta give props to everyone, but there is one actor in particular that does sort of steal the show often, and that is the very first actor we're going to talk about right in this section. It's Erik Dellums as Aaravos. This man is unreal in this season of The Dragon Prince. There are instances where you feel for the character in ways you never thought you'd feel for him, and then there are moments where you laugh and moments where you get upset, but this is all on purpose. This is, of course, the most screen time Aaravos has received and the most material Erik Dellums has had to work with. I mean, he just eats up every single scene. I'm talking from the way he sounds sinister, devious, and the low groveling noises. He's good. He's so good during this season. And I mean, there's another scene, honestly, that comes to mind. It's with King Ezran and Aaravos. They have a conversation, and it is like, whew, it's so good on its own, but it's elevated to the great tier because of Aaravos and Erik Dellums' performance. So he definitely deserves a lot of flowers after his work, not just in the season, but in the show overall. Alright, the next notable performance for me is Jack the Sena as Callum. He was given a very heavy load to carry during this season. There were a lot of scenes that really depended on his performance, and it's truly because Callum is the key to this entire story. For me, he feels more like Aang of the Dragon Prince than ever before, because Aang in Last Airbender, of course, dude, he's the Avatar, but not only that, he was the anchor piece for that story. And Callum, in my opinion, was always being worked up to be that character, and we see that fully realized in Season 7. I can promise you that he will bring many fans close to tears during the final stretch of this season as well. And that's all I'm going to say. Yeah, I'm not saying more than that until my spoiler review. Alright, so the next performance is Sasha Rojen as King Ezran. Now, I get the complaints from a lot of the fandom, and I had some complaints too about the character not necessarily being given too much material to work with on a substantive level. Like, I wanted a substantial amount of material for King Ezran. I wanted this character to grow in the role. And we finally get that in Season 7. King Ezran's character turn was my favorite of this season, and maybe the best bit of character development in the show so far from start to finish. Ezran is faced with a very early conflict in this season. Of course, he's got to deal with burned down Catullus and a certain character as well. Also, what to do about the future. There's a lot that he's carrying, but Sasha Rojen conveys this character's emotions so well. And Sasha Rojen actually carries the first 5 episodes on her back. My goodness, King Ezran does a great job in terms of how they handle the character, even though, yeah, there were some episodes in that first half that felt like a mixed bag. Sasha Rojen does a good job of breaking up some of that material and making it a worthwhile watch. And honestly, it is very easy for me to definitively say this is Sasha Rojen's best performance of this series in Season 7. Just kudos. And then there's Jesse Inocalla as Soren, who's another character that's faced with conflict between his duty to Catullus and being a brother to Claudia. In a way, I really wish that they leaned more into that conflict in Season 7 because there were some seeds being planted and they didn't fully get into it as much as I think they could have. But during the moment where this conflict comes to a head, Jesse Inocalla makes it work completely. I also love that the comedic relief that came from Soren in this season didn't feel very forced. It was very Soren, don't get me wrong, but it was not forced. Tomato, tomato, you know what I mean? That's actually a reference. You'll get it soon. But there's another scene that Jesse Inocalla really shines as well, where it's going to break fans, I think, and it comes in episode 1. That's all I'm going to say. It's really crazy. I just wish I was in the booth for that recording session. But Jesse Inocalla does a good job, and Soren's a character who I never thought I would really like too much after Season 1, but boy, did Soren become a favorite of mine too. Then there's Racquel Belmonte as Claudia, who in my opinion is misconsistent in this show. Now, she's always had a huge role to play in the story, but in season 7, she's an integral part to Aaravos in his story. I'm really trying so hard here, guys. But basically, this is Aaravos' pawn. However, Claudia is not relegated to just being a puppet. She does get her own shine as well. So if you're looking for Claudia's specific moments, you do get that in season 7. I love that they gave Claudia this struggle where she's got to figure out, are you truly evil, or is there a way for me to turn back and against Aaravos? Am I still good? I'm battling with this good and evil within me. Now, while her performances in previous seasons have been stronger than what she delivered in season 7, it was still a very solid performance, and there were moments where, I'm telling y'all, like, man, I could watch a Claudia solo, like a Claudia alone episode, and I think it would be worth it, because this character for me has many more layers that they've yet to tap into. And this is going to make sense when y'all watch the season, but it is just such a treat that we've had Racquel Belmonte for 7 seasons. And the last performance I do want to mention in this section is Paula Burrows' performance as Rayla. Now, let me be honest, Rayla has her moments too, especially with Runan and Athari. There are some instances where the build-up was worth the payoff. It's great. I mean, it's really good work, and Paula Burrows is seriously very good at being flexible with her voice work. I think that she has a knack for the character of Rayla, but remember, she's not only voicing Rayla in this show. However, just thinking about Rayla in this instance, I think this is a nice send-off for the character if, of course, we don't get another season of this show. I was maybe hoping in some instances that there would be more of an emotional tug from her performance, but I'm not so sure the script called for that. So I don't want to judge, because we've seen Paula Burrows deliver heartbreaking performances in previous seasons. It just didn't get all the way there on that level for me here in season 7, but it was, in my opinion, still very in line with what you expect. So if you expected a good performance, that's what you're getting with her in season 7. So moving on now from the notable acting, I want to talk about the action sequences, because they're the best they've ever been in The Dragon Prince. I'm telling y'all, there are some moments where I wanted to get up out of my seat. I thought I was going to jump in this world and say, I'm going to fight you too, Aaravos, but no. I'm telling you guys, episode 8 of season 6, you guys remember, I loved it because of the destruction and the consequences of their fighting, right? In season 7, the final 4 episodes of this season have the most consequences I think we've ever seen these characters deal with. There's the best action we've ever gotten. It is a grand spectacle at times, and my jaw was on the ground for the most part. Just twists, turns. It was so good. And I do think that the wait in the middle of the season, where it's a little rockier, is worth what you get in the final 4 episodes. I loved it. There's so many grand moments here. And if you're wondering, yeah, we see some deaths, we see destruction, and this battle between the humans, elves, and dragons, oh man, it's so good. And then there's the music during these action moments. Of course, the music outside of the action is excellent too, but Frederick Wiedmann is a great composer. Y'all know I love this man's work, okay? And how he delivers in season 7, it's beautiful. You know, I just got done watching a documentary on John Williams, my favorite composer of all time, and I believe the GOAT. When it comes to Frederick Wiedmann, there's something similar he does with John Williams, which is there's not a lot of depth in scenes without his music. John Williams elevates scenes with his instrumentation and how he conducts the orchestra in which produces the music he writes. Frederick Wiedmann does a great job at making sure that scenes are never without depth. He's so good, and one of my favorite composers living. So he did a great job, so shout out to him. I just can't wait for the soundtrack, and I know some of y'all already looked at the titles. How could you? And then there's the animation, you guys. So as you know, the animation in seasons 4 and maybe 5 for the most part weren't the strongest, but 6 was a return to form. And thankfully 7 continues that trend. It's so beautiful at times. I mean, I can't wait to put some of this on my wallpapers, because the way they play with coloring and the lighting and the texturing, it's so gorgeous. I mean, there's pinks, blues, purples. I loved it. I mean, there's even this moment in a garden that I can't name because of spoilers that is so gorgeous. Everything looked picturesque and, in my opinion, some of the best work yet. Of course, season 3 is still peak because there are some mistakes I noticed. I don't know if they're mistakes or maybe they just couldn't get around it. But when I was watching season 7, I did notice there were some instances where the animation didn't look excellent. It was a little jarring, and at times I noticed, and maybe it's me, I have to go back and rewatch it, some characters' feet weren't on the ground all the way. So when they were moving, it looked like they were maybe like moonwalking forwards. So that happened only sparingly, so maybe like 2 or 3 times. But again, it's worth noting. However, overall, the animation is still incredible to look at. So I'm telling you guys, season 7 does deliver on a whole lot. And I wish I could talk so much more and get into detail, but I can't because it's a spoiler-free review. So I'm going to get into my negatives now. And you're thinking, negatives in a final season of a show like The Dragon Prince? You're crazy, James. I'm not. Because there are some instances where this final season maybe could have been a little bit more refined. So let's get into a couple negatives right now. There are some creative decisions at the very end of this season that I truly didn't love. Now, without spoiling anything, there were some very clear decisions made to leave the door open, so I understand that, and it's not inherently bad, but it doesn't provide too much closure either. And I know that's a worry that many fans had going into the season, and I believe it is a concern that is valid because I felt it too. I really wish maybe we got more of a focus on some characters and bringing about this sense of totality. I wanted an ending, you know what I mean? I understand that they're trying so hard to push for seasons 8 through 10, but it would have been nice maybe with some characters, and I'll throw a couple out there for you right now. Queen Amaya and Queen Janai. It would have been really nice if both of them had a little bit more of a spotlight in terms of their storyline being wrapped up, especially after a certain something happens. I wish we would have gotten a little bit more closure with them. So there were some instances where I understand why they did it, but my preference would be that they would have gone the other way, especially with one huge reveal that I ain't going to get into right now, but you'll see my reaction to it soon. Boy, I wish they would have left that one alone. But for the most part, of course, it doesn't distract too much from the overall story. It's just sometimes in a final season, you close the door on some stories and you leave it open on others. Maybe they left it open a little bit too much on some storylines, and it would have been nice to see a bit more of a book that closed, And of course, the most glaring issue I had with season 7 is the middle of this season. It was incredibly mixed for me. I mean, I didn't know what happened after episodes 1 and 2. We're riding on a high, it's good, we're setting up, and I figured by the end of episode 3, oh yeah, things are kicking in overdrive, but instead, from episodes 3 to 5, oh boy, I felt like it was a little up and down for me. The writing wasn't the strongest all the way through. There were some great moments between those episodes, but I would feel, and I would venture to say that those 3 episodes were the weakest of season 7. There was a lot of expository dialogue that was telling us we're building to something great, but we didn't necessarily see this. And for a final season of a series that only has 9 episodes, I would have preferred if they didn't spend so much time discussing things and rather taking the action instead. I also thought that the performances between those episodes were not necessarily as memorable as they should have been. And I know that might sound like I'm nitpicking every episode, but again, 9 episodes, less than 30 minutes each, in a final season of a show. I think that it would have been a stronger stretch in the middle of the season if they maybe were able to deliver more dynamic performances here. I get it, they were saving a lot for the back end of this season, and they delivered, don't get me wrong. It's just the middle of this season that sort of holds it back from being an A+ season. So I guess, honestly, guys, that's a pretty good transition to my overall thoughts, because I'm trying to hold back on saying anything spoilery. And I won't be spoiling anything, I promise. Oh, I know how to re-record if I do slip up. But there's a lot to love in season 7 of The Dragon Prince. And it truly is one of the stronger seasons of this series. My favorite season is still season 6. Then I have season 3 right behind it. but I do see myself placing season 7 in any of the places after that. But that's a video for another day. Don't worry, that video is coming too. I really loved what they did with a lot of the storytelling in season 7 and the action and the thrills and there are consequences here that our characters face, and it's so well worth the wait. I love the parallels between characters. I like that the show got a little bit more mature. There's a lot of leveling up that season 7 accomplishes, and it does feel like the final season of a series. And is that bittersweet? Absolutely. I mean, it's hard to say goodbye to a show, right? And especially a show that you love. And this is an episode, I should say this is a season with episodes that have good to great moments. And even in that stretch that I just mentioned that has mixed bag appeal to it, there are still some good moments there. But by the end, I walked away satisfied from season 7. It is, there are just some moments that you feel so deeply about because of the build-up. You know, it's remarkable that a show got more than 5 seasons in the animation world on Netflix, and Dragon Prince said, let's get 7, and they did it. They accomplished the vision they sought out to, I guess, put out for the world, and I love that for them, and I love that for the cast, the crew, and everyone involved. So, season 7, is it worth your time? Absolutely. If you're a fan, will you love it? I'm sure you will. For me, it just, you want more, but you can't because things gotta end when it comes to TV, right, guys? So this is a really, again, a fitting end for the Dragon Prince season 7, and it's hard to say goodbye, but goodbye, Dragon Prince. Oh man, I can't do it. I can't do it. Maybe I'll try it again during the outro, but y'all, there you have it. That's my real review of the 7th season of the Dragon Prince, the final official season of this amazing show. How would I rate this season? I probably would give it a 4 out of 5 jelly tarts as of now. Maybe a 4.5 after second watch, but during this time, I gotta give it a 4 out of 5, and that's still very good. Some episodes, though, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm looking at my episode rankings right now. I would say, like, there are some that are 5 out of 5 and 4.5 out of 5. Yeah. Well, that might be a video, again, for another day to rank these episodes, but just, I just really liked a lot of what they did here, and I love the show, and it's sad to see it go. But guys, let me know down below in the comments what you think about this review. Does it get you more excited? If you've already seen season 7, let me know, what did you think about the final season? And hey, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. I hope you stick with me, guys, because I appreciate your support. God bless you guys for all that you've done to help elevate this channel as well. The community I'm building here is so special, and I just can't wait to continue building this community and making good content for each of you. Now we got to figure out what the next show is going to be that we're going to capture, talk about, drop news videos about. I'm so excited for what's ahead, and I know God's going to open the right door for us. So, y'all, that's a wrap on the Dragon Prince. That feels really weird to say, and I'm sad about it. I told myself I wouldn't cry, but I might get there. Thanks again to Aaron Ehasz and Justin Richmond for creating a special universe for countless amounts of fans to play in. You know, I loved it. Season 7. It's done. It's in the books. Goodbye, Dragon Prince. You'll be missed. Alrighty, y'all. Well, there you have it. It's my real review. God bless you guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening. Get me my tissue. Get me my tissues, please.